Body. The map of Europe significantly changed after the Great Migration of Peoples. Body. In Western Europe, on the lands of the Roman Empire, new states emerged. Body. Historians called these barbarian kingdoms because Germanic barbarians held power. Body. These barbarians had come from across the Rhine River. Body. One such tribe was the Franks, destined to lead Europe's next historical epoch. Body. The name Franks comes from the Proto-Germanic word fra, meaning free. Body. From the start, the Franks were powerful and numerous, forming an alliance of tribes. Body. Over time, these tribes united into two groups, the Salian Franks and the Ripuarian Franks. Body. The Salian Franks lived along the coast, their name meaning maritime in Frankish. Body. The Ripuarian Franks lived along the Rhine, hence their name meaning riverbank. Body. The leader who united these two alliances was Clovis, chief of the Salian Franks. Body. He hailed from the Merovingian family and became king in 485 through marriage diplomacy. Body. That same year he started a war against the Gaul-Roman kingdom of Soissons. Body. The following year he defeated the Gauls near their capital and captured their territories. Body. When the Alemanni invaded Frankish territory again in 496, Clovis defeated them. Body. This victory was at the Battle of Tolbiac, after which the Franks easily subjugated half of the Alemanni lands. Body. In 500, Clovis attacked Burgundy and won a battle at Dijon. Body. The Franks then established a protectorate over Burgundy, which remained nominally independent. Body. Clovis's greatest achievement was his war with the Visigoths. Body. Using the pretext of intervening in Burgundy's affairs, the Frankish king invaded the Visigothic kingdom in 507. Body. He won the Battle of Woolley, claiming all of southern Gaul for himself. Body. This territory constituted almost half of the Visigothic lands at the time. Body. Clovis expanded Frankish possessions multiple times over. Body. He is historically recognized as the founder and first king of France. Body. To solidify his power, Clovis enacted administrative reforms and moved the capital to Paris. Body. He also wrote a code of laws. Body. His most significant decision was accepting Catholicism, opposing Arianism. Body. Arianism was professed by most Germanic tribes and considered heresy in Rome. Body. Thus, Clovis secured an alliance with the Church, consolidating his dynasty's power. Body. The subsequent Merovingians never reached Clovis's heights. Body. Their only notable success was the temporary annexation of dependent Burgundy. Body. However, the Franks soon split into 4 kingdoms. Body. Kings of this dynasty were known for incompetent rule, favoring entertainment over state affairs. Body. Contemporaries dubbed these rulers lazy kings. Body. While they sat on the throne, aristocrats and administrators began usurping power. Body. The position of mayor of the palace became crucial for the nobility. Body. This official managed the royal palace, controlled the treasury, and oversaw royal decrees. Body. Consequently, the mayors of the palace assumed all practical authority. Body. For a long time, 2 influential families held the position of mayor of the palace in Austrasia. Body. Pepin of Herstal was born from the union of these families. Body. In 680, he inherited the position of mayor of the palace from his father. Body. Through strength, intrigue, and diplomacy, he united the 4 Frankish kingdoms. Body. Afterward, he focused on campaigns against the Frisians, Saxons, and Franconians. Body. These campaigns, however, did not yield significant success. Body. Pepin's inheritance was passed to his illegitimate son, Charles, nicknamed Martel, meaning hammer. Body. It took Charles 4 years to seize power and place the puppet king Chilperic II on the throne. Body. Nevertheless, the Franks constantly rebelled against him. Body. In 719, Charles Martel successfully conquered Frisia. Body. By 730, he forcefully established a protectorate over Alemannia, Thuringia, and Bavaria. Body. In 732, Arabs invaded Frankish territory on the Iberian Peninsula under Abd al-Rahman. Body. Encountering little resistance, they advanced to the banks of the Loire River. Body. Their army numbered 30,000 soldiers, with heavy cavalry being their main advantage. Body. Martel gathered only 20,000 soldiers and lacked strong cavalry. Body. To neutralize the enemy's advantage, the Franks occupied a hill near Poitiers. They established a fortified camp there. For a whole week the Arabs unsuccessfully stormed the camp. After their commander's death, they were forced to retreat from the battlefield. Charles Martel gained fame as a victor. This bastard ruler, who had faced constant rebellion, became a hero. He used his new authority to enact reforms. Even though the Franks defeated the Arabs on foot, Martel recognized the value of heavy cavalry. This cavalry could easily break through infantry formations and had almost defeated his army. Therefore, he decided to create his own cavalry force. To achieve this, he began distributing land to his vassals. In exchange, vassals were required to appear for war mounted on horses and clad in heavy metal armor. Thus, Charles Martel became the founder of European cavalry, which would dominate battlefields for nearly 1,000 years. Equally important was the emergence of a new aristocratic family among the Franks, the Carolingians. They were named after their founder, Charles Martel. The position of mayor of the palace was inherited by his son Pepin. Pepin was nicknamed Short due to his small stature. However, this position did not satisfy him. Pepin desired the crown. He found an opportunity to achieve this goal. In 751, the Pope crowned Pepin the Short in exchange for military assistance. The last Merovingian king, Childeric II, was forcibly tonsured into a monk. In gratitude, Pepin launched a war against the Lombards, who were interfering with the Pope's rule in Italy. In 755, he crossed the Alps and captured the Lombard capital. The following year, the Lombards besieged Rome. Pepin the Short invaded Italy again and defeated the Lombards near Rome's walls. He then granted a number of lands to the Pope known as the Papal States. This event would be recorded in history as the donation of Pepin. Pepin the Short continued his efforts to expand his territories. In 759 he captured Narbonne. The next year he had to suppress an uprising by the Aquitaine people. Aquitaine had long been reluctant to submit to the new dynasty. As soon as Pepin left the region for winter, the Aquitaines rebelled again. He had to return with an army the following spring. Pepin spent the last 8 years of his reign engaged in these campaigns. He died during another campaign against the rebellious Aquitaine. His eldest son, Charlemagne, successfully completed the campaign against Aquitaine. He achieved this by enlisting the support of some rebellious nobility, promising them land and wealth. At the same time he finally annexed Gascony to the royal domains. Initially, Charles had to share the throne with his younger brother. However, his brother died after 3 years of joint rule. Then, the new king, possessing the strongest army in Western Europe, began his long-desired conquests. Charles's father had arranged a marriage for him with the Lombard king's daughter. But in 771, Charlemagne broke off the marriage and sent the princess back to Italy. Enraged, Desiderius declared war on the Pope, an ally of the Franks. In response, the Pope called on Charlemagne for assistance. In the autumn of 773, Charlemagne gathered his army near the Alps. The Lombards also brought their troops to the same location. The retreat was covered by the Margrave Roland of Nantes. He and his squad were ambushed in Roncevaux Pass by Basques who were seeking revenge for the Franks burning their cities. Roland became a symbol of knightly bravery and a hero in medieval literature. The Song of Roland became popular, transforming him into the king's nephew and a knight who heroically died fighting Arabs. The failed campaign against the Arabs was assessed by one of the Saxon leaders, Widukind, who was hiding in Denmark at the time. In 779, he returned home for the first time and started a rebellion. Charlemagne invaded Saxony and put down this rebellion, reaching the Elbe River with his army. This time, he not only defeated the rebellious Saxons, but also forcibly baptized them and built churches and forts. The most defiant Saxons were forcibly relocated to Aquitaine. However, Widukind did not give up and spent 2 years preparing for another rebellion. This time he conspired not only with the Saxons, but also incited the Frisians and Lusatian Slavs to revolt. Moreover, he received assistance from the Duke of Bavaria, who had long wanted to break free from Frankish rule. In 782, Widukind returned home again, and the Saxon uprising reignited with great force. The rebellious Saxons destroyed the newly built forts, burned churches, killed priests, and refused baptism en masse. They also managed to lure the Frankish troops, sent to quell the uprising, into an ambush and defeated them in the Battle of Suntel Mountain. An enraged Charlemagne gathered troops in Verdun and brought 4,500 Saxon hostages. He ordered all of them to be executed. This event would become known in history as the Massacre of Verdun. After that, Charlemagne marched his army through the Saxon territories. He narrowly avoided defeat in a battle near Tietmeli, but he did defeat Widukind in the battle on the Haas River. However, he was still unable to defeat the rebellious army or capture their leader. So Charlemagne founded the city of Frankfurt, where he stayed for the next 3 years. From there, he constantly raided the Saxons, burning their towns. Additionally, he expelled 7,000 inhabitants from Saxony. In 785, Widukind, unwilling to continue the bloody conflict, made peace with Charlemagne and even accepted Christianity, after which he disappeared from historical records. According to one legend, Widukind killed Charlemagne, never forgiving him for the successful rebellion. According to another legend, Charlemagne appointed him the Duke of Saxony, from whom the dynasty of the future Ottonians descended. Charlemagne also did not forget the betrayal of Tassilo. He also remembered that the Bavarians supported the Lombards during his war against them. Moreover, scouts brought news that Tassilo II was plotting a joint attack on the Franks with the Avars. In 788 AD, Charlemagne massed 3 armies on the border with Bavaria. The northern army was under the command of Count Gerald of Franconia, the southern army was led by his son Pepin, and the western army was led by Charlemagne himself. All 3 armies began to advance simultaneously, and the Bavarians were unsure whom to confront first. Tassilo II surrendered without a fight and entered a monastery, and Gerald became the new Duke of Bavaria, now under Frankish control. While the Franks were conquering Bavaria, the Avars invaded Italy. After plundering the Friuli region, they retreated to the Danube. This prompted Charlemagne to declare war. He invaded the Avar Khaganate but barely escaped defeat himself and was forced to return home. In 791 AD, the Franks, led by Gerald of Bavaria and Eric of Friuli, launched a new successful campaign. They captured most of the Avar fortresses and forced the Avars to retreat beyond the Danube. In 796, with the help of an uprising by the Slavic Horitan people against the Avars, Gerald and Eric managed to capture the Avar ruler. In 799 AD, the Franks launched another campaign, during which both commanders, Eric of Friuli and Gerald of Bavaria, died. Then Prince Pepin, who took command of the Franks, ordered the slaughter of all Avars, effectively annihilating their entire nation. During the war with the Avars, Charlemagne avoided leading the armies himself, preferring life in the capital and focusing on political reforms. Despite this, in 792 AD, he had to suppress a rebellion led by his illegitimate son, Pepin the Hunchback. In 793 AD, Saxony rebelled against him again, and he had to march there once more. Following this, the Saxons rebelled 3 more times. These rebellions were put down by Charlemagne's dukes. In 799 AD, the Franks conquered Brittany. In 801 AD, Charlemagne's son, Prince Louis, who governed Aquitaine, crossed the Pyrenees, captured Barcelona, and then subdued the Basques. However, Charlemagne's most significant achievement during these years was obtaining a new title. He used the fact that in Byzantium in 797, Empress Irene had come to power as his pretext. According to the Franks, a woman could not be emperor. This is how Charlemagne decided to become the new emperor. The Pope, who had been expelled by the Romans in 799 AD, supported Charlemagne in exchange for Charlemagne returning Rome to papal authority. Thus, in 800 AD on Christmas Day, December 25th, Charlemagne the Great was crowned Emperor of Rome, and the Frankish kingdom transformed into an empire. A tragic year for Charlemagne was 810, when an epidemic claimed the lives of his two eldest sons. Consequently, all his lands were inherited by his third son, Louis, who became the new emperor upon his father's death in 814 AD. His first action was to send almost all the court ladies, including his sisters, to a monastery, earning him the nickname the Pious. However, Louis the Pious's entire reign was plagued by rebellions. In 817 AD, his nephew Bernard of Italy rebelled against him. Bernard agreed to negotiate with the emperor, but he was captured and blinded, which ultimately led to his death. The following year, Brittany rebelled against Louis, but the uprising was brutally suppressed. In 822 AD, the Bretons rebelled again and continued their war for 3 years. In 830 AD, they rebelled once more, and this time achieved practical independence, which, however, the Franks only officially recognized 20 years later. In 830 AD, Louis faced a rebellion from his own children. They captured their father and forced him to abdicate. But a year later, they began fighting amongst themselves and released their father, restoring him to the throne so he could decide their fate. In 837 AD, Aquitaine rebelled against Louis, led by his own grandson who declared himself King of Aquitaine. Louis was unable to suppress the Aquitaine rebellion. Upon the death of Louis the Pious in 840 AD, his sons once again engaged in a war for their father's inheritance. None of them possessed enough strength for a decisive battle and victory. Therefore, in 843 AD, the brothers signed the Treaty of Verdun, by which they divided the Frankish Empire among themselves. Thus, the empire ceased to exist. Although Lothair continued to call himself emperor, it was merely a nominal title. The Carolingians continued to fight amongst themselves, and their territories became the precursors of European states. Lothair's lands would later become Italy, Louis' lands, Germany. Charles's lands formed France, and the strip of land in the middle, which was later called Lotharingia, became a source of disputes and wars until the 20th century.